Throughout the week, people have been wondering what's up with that whole Joe Biden raising the refugee cap thing. Like he said he was going to do it. He promised it multiple times. And John Oliver had a great segment on his show last week tonight, asking him for him to actually do the thing that he said he was going to do. And lots of people started talking about it throughout the week. On the damage report, we did multiple segments on it. And so we wanted clarification. And earlier today, the Biden administration gave that clarification at long last. President Biden has decided not to lift the cap on refugees for the current fiscal year from the level set by the Trump administration, according to a senior administration official, abandoning a previous proposal to Congress to allow more refugees to come to the United States. Now, there is some breaking news, but not necessarily clarifying news. So we will get to that in a second, but I wanna give you the news that broke earlier today, starting with what we said. In addition, he plans to keep the refugee cap at 15,000. That figures a historic low set by Donald Trump. So it's not even one human being more than what Donald Trump would allow. Earlier this year, Biden had proposed to Congress lifting the cap up to 62,500. He has pledged to raise it to 125,000 for the following fiscal year, which begins in October. Now that might sound like a huge increase, and I guess it sort of is, only because of how much the cap has been lowered over the past few years, but it is very much in line with just the normal amounts of refugees that were being brought in during the latter years of the Obama administration. On that 62,500 number, one of the reporters for the Washington Post noted on Twitter that that number was actually a prorated figure for a fiscal year that was half over. An apples to apples comparison is that Biden had already pledged 125 and has now decided to stick with 15,000, which is, as she points out, a huge drop. Now, he is going to change the regional allocation of refugees. Under Trump's directive, strict restrictions were placed on accepting refugees on certain African and majority Muslim countries. So sure, the number might be basically zero, but it'll be basically zero people coming in from more countries. And many people, I think quite reasonably, lost it over this, because not only did he make the promise during the campaign, and not only did he get goodwill by promising to turn against something that motivated a huge amount of anti-Trump sentiment, but even very recently, like during the town hall he did, what, like a month ago, he had this to say.
With me into Sierra Leone, come with me into parts of Lebanon, come with me around the world and see people piled up in camps, kids dying, no way out, refugees fleeing from persecution. We, the United States, used to do our part. We were part of that. That's, send me your huddled masses, come on.
Now, that might sound bad with the news of today, but bear in mind, he kept saying, come with me to those countries. He didn't say, then come back to the United States. Just stay there, I guess. Now, the press secretary did put out a sort of statement saying the president's directive today has been the subject of some confusion. Last week, he sent to Congress his budget for the fiscal year starting October 2021, which honors his commitment. For the past few weeks, he has been consulting with his advisors to determine what number of refugees could realistically be admitted to the United States between now and October 1st. Given the decimated refugee admissions program we inherited and burdens on the Office of Refugee Resettlement, his initial goal of 62,500 seems unlikely. So it's all about Trump, blah, blah, blah. While finalizing that determination, the president was urged to take immediate action to reverse the Trump policy that banned refugees from many key regions to enable flights from those regions to begin within days. Today's order did that. With that done, we expect the president to set a final increased refugee cap for the remainder of this fiscal year by May 15th. Which, look, that was pitched as clarifying what was already out there, but it definitely doesn't just do that. This seems like someone shifted into reverse and then just hit the gas there. And I hope this most recent update is the final honest commitment to raise it, but what do you both think?
All right, well, so let's understand why we did this, or as Joe Biden would say, come on. All right, so number of Republican votes he'll get by keeping Trump's brutal refugee camp, approximately 0, none. This is old 1990s way of thinking, triangulation. I'm gonna get Republican voters. It barely worked back then. It certainly doesn't work now. We're far too separated in our different tribes for Republicans to go, oh, I love the brutality of Donald Trump and Joe Biden gave me 5% of it, so I'm gonna vote for him instead of the next brutal Republican. It ain't gonna happen. So going an inch right wing is almost completely pointless. Yeah, there's some shades of independence in some suburbs, etc. But you're much better off turning out your base than trying to get 7 Republicans in the suburbs, right? But they've never understood that. By the way, Biden barely won this election. 43,000 votes in 3 states made the difference. So it's not like, oh, well, Biden won an election, so he must be a genius. No, he almost lost to Trump, okay? So now, why is he doing it? It is because of triangulation, and it's because of, this is really important, the media and pressure. So why do you think we're having a conversation about immigration and refugees? Because the right wing said, oh, crisis at the border, oh my God, there's too many immigrants in the country, right? And then all the media picked it up, and then Jen Psaki kept getting asked about it in the White House press conferences, and then next thing you know, it's the old Fox News trick. They talk about it enough, then CNN and MSNBC start talking about it, and they feel they need to react. Now, that's the giant pushback from the right wing. And from the left wing, we got, as usual, the sound of silence, right? So since there was no pushback from the left, he's like, well, I got these guys locked up. They're totally veal penned. They're not going to criticize me ever on anything. So I might as well just start heading right wing, right? And if you're old school politician, that makes a lot of sense, right? That is why you need to create pressure from the left. Now, good news on this is, after he made this announcement, instantly there was pressure from the left. So AOC, Ilhan Omar, and others, thank you, stepped up to the plate and took on Biden very aggressively on this.
Yeah, Cenk, I completely agree with you. I think that this is an attempt by the Biden administration to sort of appease conservatives, but I don't think that that's ever going to happen. I think, this was a promise that he ran on and that people voted for him in a pandemic, might I add, based on this promise. And so I think he would be much smarter to really play to the people who turned out the vote, many of whom are Black and brown folks, Black and brown women who did the work of going out to vote and getting their communities to vote. I don't want to see Biden trying to kowtow to conservatives and Republicans just to sort of try to kind of woo their votes. I don't think it works that way. I think he's completely wasting his time and selling out the people who actually voted for him at the same time.
Yeah, and look, we will have to keep watching this to see what they end up doing. I've been looking at the press secretary's Twitter account, and it's a whole bunch of, oh God, why are you all freaking out? Like we got all these steps planned. We're gonna do all this great stuff. Okay, well then tell that to all of the sources inside of the administration that have spent the last week saying that Biden's terrified of political pressure and all of this. Like, it's senior administration officials. Sure, they could be totally making it up. Seems more likely that they're backpedaling. And I want this to potentially serve as a lesson to our audience who needs it less than pretty much anyone else. There was this, you can see it in the headlines. There's this belief that, well, Kayleigh McEnany was a massive liar, but now we've got a woman of perfect virtue who would never tell us a mistruth or anything like that. And oh God, look at the Psaki bombs, they're awesome and all of that. No, she's a press secretary. She's a professional liar. She might lie a little bit less egregiously than Kayleigh McEnany. It would be difficult not to. That said, she is covering for Biden. That's it. And sure, in this case, maybe the end result is good, but we need to have an adversarial relationship. In this case, it seems like the adversarial relationship is the only thing that's going to result in more refugees actually coming to this country. But now we need to apply the lesson of this to having Biden actually acknowledging the blockade in Yemen, actually making good on his promises around student loan debt cancellation, a ton of other things like that. And so hopefully this isn't the only instance where there will be a strong enough reaction to provoke him to actually make good on his promises.
Yeah, John, I just want to last couple of things here. One, I want to back up what you're saying about the White House spokespeople in 100%. So they all are, and the media pretends like they're all incredible truth tellers. It's absurd. It's a kabuki theater that they play. Jay Carney used to be Obama's press secretary. Then he went to work for Amazon, and he recently put out statements saying that, like, pretending that Amazon's more progressive than Bernie Sanders, and that he's for a higher minimum wage. Well, you had 8 years during the Obama administration to push for a higher minimum wage, and you never did. So yeah, of course. I mean, by the nature of that job is you've got to lie at least a little, but often a lot. And so now, in terms of the comment you made about Biden's panic, I think that's the most important one, because he's panicked about the reaction he's seeing in the media and the pushback he's getting from the right wing. Okay, now what does that tell you if you're on the left wing? That you should do likewise. That is how power is wielded. That is how you have leverage. And they don't respect you if you just sit there and go, oh, yes, sir, absolutely, sir. Anything you want, sir. That means they ignore you. But if you create trouble for them, and on the left, we can create good trouble, then they've got to respond. I'm gonna give the last word to one of our viewers here. If you're in the member section, sometimes we read your comments in the middle of a story, tyt.com/join to join. Colorado Blue Blazer Regular is a little bit more skeptical than we are, and wrote in, I wish my thesis was incorrect, but once again, it seems to be proven Republicans initiate violent punitive policies. Democratic administrations come in to normalize those vile policies.
I will try to keep it brief, but we can see that in a million different ways. Even like the re-raising of the corporate tax rate, like taking it down from 35 to 21 is insane. Taking it back up, not even the whole way. Oh, well, now responsible people are in charge.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.